Time to get issues of the day with T Radar from his perspective, joining us via live Skype video this morning. Good morning to you, T Radar.
Good morning to you, Wammo, on this sort of wonderful, oddly November Tuesday morning.
Why do you say oddly?
Well, kind of, you keep waiting for that burst of summer morning, and you get up and it's always a little bit grey and overcast and a bit chilly. But the smell of summer is there.
The smell is there.
A new season is in the air.
Is it that, or is it the smell of politics in the air? I don't know. It's there's a lot of it going around, including on social.
There's a rancid smell of politics in the air that is permeating everything.
Yes.
What was that?
Including on social media at the moment, there's a what they call a hashtag, or what people are talking about, and something called Evil Robin, talking about Robin Malcolm and her speech at the Greens campaign launch.
Yes. I think various words have been used to describe it, such as vitriolic. And it's what, when you have a political launch, people do tend to get fairly passionate about these things, and she was clearly quite passionate. She's been associated with the Greens for quite a long time, at the forefront of many of the sort of protests against the mining and whatnot. And it's odd the way that, in the Herald in particular, I think, has sort of demonised her for coming out and having an opinion. I thought that's what elections were all about.
Yeah, this morning, it's what's the headline on the Herald there? It's something about Star comes under attack for outrageous speech or something along those lines, and then you get into the story, and no, she's not actually under attack. Well, she's under attack by one person. His name is Cameron Brewer. He's got this quite extreme Auckland right-wing agenda going on, so no surprises there.
Yes, that's right. And they must have their sub-editors working overtime to come up with pearl of headlines like that. It's not just the Herald, actually. On the Stuff website, the headline for one of the Labour Party events was "Mr. Farty steals Labour's thunder." And you kind of think, really? And so you read through this entire article, and I was interested in it because it happened just around the corner from me. And Labour visited a sort of a primary school, and they had Jason Farfoy there, and he was sort of emceeing the event, and he said to the kids, people call me Farty, and the kids said, "Good morning, Mr. Farty." And that was essentially the basis of the story. And then by the time they got around to sort of informing us that then the grown-ups began to talk and the kids got bored. That was the entire content. I was going, well, what did they say? What were they actually talking about?
Yeah, what were they actually talking to the kids about? They would have been actually interesting to know, but all we got to know about was the farty thing, yeah. What about also the other article in the Herald this morning about Labour's TV ad noise policy?
Yeah, you've got to sort of wonder when, we're looking for sort of policies and people are thinking what's going on, and Claire Curran's come out and said, look, we're going to address the situation with ad noise. If people are familiar with this, is when you're watching TV and all of a sudden the ads come on and they appear to be noisier than the program, and there's been a lot of argy-bargy over whether or not it's just the sort of the compression of the sound or whatever it is, but apparently Labour are going to instigate some kind of a policy or an investigation into whether this is the case and look at legislating to ensure that this doesn't continue. And you kind of think, really? Is that the best thing that you can announce from your, or is that the best thing that can be picked up from your announcements? To be fair, I think she did sort of blog about it, and so obviously, then it becomes grist to the mill for the people writing about these kind of things. But
I looked at the policy document. It's 4 pages, and it goes on about creating a public broadcaster and all that. In fact, that is the bulk of it. It's all about public broadcasting and how broadcasting is going to happen in the future. The ad noise thing is one line down on the 4th page, right near the bottom.
Yes, exactly. But I think Claire Curran then sort of went on to write about it a bit on one of the Labour blogs, and I think probably by the time people got to the bottom of a 4-page policy announcement, your eyes do tend to glaze over, and so she did sort of draw attention to it herself, I suppose. But yes, it's and with a very limited media space and people's time being relatively precious, you'd think that they could do a slightly better job, some of the sort of the print media, to actually put some of the more important things near the front of people's reading pile.
Indeed. Well, the talk also this morning is what is going to happen between ACT and National, with the confrontation between an ACT member and John Key yesterday. I think he started yelling at John Key, saying, "Hey, when are you going to uphold your end of the bargain and back banks for Epsom?"
That's right, yes, he was down in New Plymouth, and there was supposed to be a deal where ACT in New Plymouth wouldn't stand a candidate because it's a very marginal seat, and obviously Andrew Little's standing there, and they want him to get an electorate seat because they're touting him to be, the next sort of leader of the Labour Party, or one of the several who have the opportunity, and so ACT wouldn't stand, and the deal was there was a sort of implicit, I don't know whether there was a handshake or a nod or a wink or a secret backslap, that National obviously would go easy in Epsom with John Banks, but now Banks is looking very precarious, and it's ACT on the edge of oblivion. And nice to see that on Morning Report this morning, Don Brash was there, and they said, look, you've slipped to less than 1% in the polls. Is this a sort of indicative of your leadership? And he says, yes, well, I suppose it is.
That's honest.
oddly honest, Don Brash, for a politician. Always is failing in many ways. Yeah. And so, yes, if John Banks loses Epsom, then I guess that's the end of ACT. And if National get below 50, then it is possible for Labour to form a large coalition of all of sort of the other parties and end up governing. But
you've got to say that surely John Key will have this symbolic cup of tea. I don't know why it's not a coffee or a beer or anything, but anyway, we'll have a cup of tea with John Banks and say to these Epsom voters who just follow along, obviously like sheep or like lemmings or whatever. And
do you think if you were in Epsom, you'd be a little bit sort of annoyed at being categorised as one of these, one of the big sheeple of Epsom?
Well, that you're being totally gamed. But if that happens, then why not turn the whole thing into a stupid game? Why wouldn't the Greens and Labour come out and say to their supporters, look, don't vote for our guys. They're not going to win anyway. Don't vote for our guys. Vote for the national candidates. And because it's just a game, right?
Yes, exactly. It's just a numbers game, and I think that's one of the things I haven't really got to the bottom of it. That some of the new legislation, to look at the MMP thing may actually deal with whether or not you can actually sort of game the system like this. How they'll do that, I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see.
Okay, well, let's move on from politics because there's some other funny stuff going on around the place.
Story of the week.
The cleaner.
I've been to a fair few art galleries recently. Travelling around, you always pop in to see what's going on. And over in a place called Dortmund, where is that? I think it's in Germany. But it had a bit of a modern art installation. It was a sort of a something that looked like it was dripping from the ceiling. It was called When It Starts Dripping from the Ceiling, and underneath it was what looked like a dried rain puddle. Worth $1.1 million, this installation piece. And clearly someone forgot to tell the cleaning lady. You often hear of these stories. In she came, saw what appeared to be a puddle on the ground, got through wiping most of it away before someone said, oh, God, oh God, you've just wiped out half of it. $1 million piece of art. Unfortunately, the artist died in 1997, so they can't sort of say, oh, what are we going to do about this? But got to love those installation pieces. I often like walking around the galleries and going, is that a piece of art, or are they actually redecorating?
Yeah, you're right. Or is that just a pile of rubbish in the corner? Surely someone should deal with that. Indeed, yeah. Well, it's all about your own interpretation, isn't it? And they say that
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed, they say that. All right, we're having a slight...
Yes, it's all about perception. So now this wonderful sort of conversation happens to whether or not they leave it.
Yeah.
Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here, but we're having a few Skype difficulties towards at the end, so we'll say our goodbyes. T-Radar, thanks
we'll speak again next week, and we'll see how things are faring.
Indeed, have a good one. T-Radar there. The time now is 20 minutes past